Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we return to talking about former Vice President and current presidential candidate Joe Biden. Yes, this Democratic frontrunner and also possible Alzheimer's sufferer has had a very interesting campaign this year. He, of course, has been known to be hiding in his basement for the last few months, avoiding interviews, tough questions, and just going out in public in general. Biden has admitted that he's not even going to hold his own rallies this year, and many are suspecting he could back out of the presidential debates as well. This is a strategy coming from the leftists because they just know Joe is not fit for combat. He's not fit to leave the house and speak too much unless it's scripted, unless the questions are pre planned and pre gone over and written answers for. Joe is just not the man for the job. And obviously, he's kind of a puppet candidate at this point. And this news story has proven that because recently, Joe Biden has been accused of plagiarism once again. That's right. This is something that's come up in his political career before. He's been accused of plagiarism. Not only that, but also lying about his credentials and all kinds of bad stuff. But specifically today, we're talking about how Biden seems to have copied some of the policies and possible plans from other former candidates. Specifically, he appears to have copied Bernie Sanders' platform almost word for word. He's gotten more extreme that way too. So Biden seems to be going further left, even though he seemed to be more of a moderate candidate in the beginning. But now it's looking like he's going after the far left crowd, the woke crowd, the BLMs, and all the very, very terrible activists, Antifa, the socialist, the communist, and that was all led by Bernie Sanders previously. Bernie was the woke candidate. He was the socialist. He's the independent, pretending to be a Democrat to kind of sneak into their ranks. And then he's got AOC by his side and all those kinds of the squad girls who are all very woke and leftist too. And now Joe Biden's copying that, and it's been revealed in a few tweets. As you can see by this one, this first comes from Donald Trump Jr., who says, looks like Biden is back to plagiarizing again. I guess old habits died hard. Good thread. So if he says it's good, I trust him. We're going to read into this and see how it goes. It says, today, Joe Biden's Unity Task Force released recommendations for the DMC platform that crib straight from Bernie Sanders' radical agenda. Crib meaning copy or steal or take from, kind of just reiterate what was in Bernie's platform. They found multiple instances of word for word copying from Bernie. Biden's Criminal Justice Unity Task Force copied Bernie. So it's very telling. You could see the examples here word for word. Let's read the thing specifically and then we'll come back. It says, Biden's version says, to create a civil corps of unarmed first responders, such as social workers, EMTs, and trained mental health professionals who can handle nonviolent emergencies, including order maintenance violations, mental health emergencies, and low-level conflicts outside the criminal justice system, freeing police officers to concentrate on the most serious crimes. Now, here's Bernie's section to create a civil corps of unarmed first responders, such as social workers, EMTs, and trained mental health professionals, blah, blah, blah. It's word for word Bernie's plan to replace the police. This is like the whole task force thing. They're trying to call it a unity task force, which, I mean, it's just a fancy way of saying, oh, this is the new police force. We're not calling them cops anymore. I mean, it's going to be doing the same thing. They're going to go out when people call and there's a crime. They're going to go out and solve it. But instead of calling them cops, they're first responders, social workers, EMTs, health professionals, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a really bad idea on its own. We're not really here to talk about the badness of this idea of trying to get rid of cops. But the greater point is Biden's copying Bernie, and Bernie is just not someone you want to look up to. Bernie is a twice failed presidential candidate. He is this fake independent pretending to be a Democrat to get in on their race, basically ruining their party and splitting them up and pushing them further to the left. Like we said, Bernie loves the commies. He went to Russia for his honeymoon. He visited them and said Russia is a very beautiful place. He wishes we were more like them. And this isn't modern Russia. We're talking about like 40 years ago Russia, when they were very communist, very, very terrible. You know, no one there could have a free life. They couldn't work or earn their own money. You had to work within the communist system. They assigned you things and gave you these sorts of assignments. It was just a bad idea. It's like capitalism is obviously better. That's why we won the Cold War and why communist China fell. But Bernie's still not giving up on it. He wants to bring it here. And now we're seeing Biden do the same thing, which is super messed up. And I think that's only the beginning, because now we have more sections. This is Biden copying Bernie's workplace democracy plan. It says, issue an executive order to prevent companies from receiving federal contracts that outsource jobs overseas, pay workers less than 15 an hour without benefits, refuse to remain neutral in union organizing efforts. That outsource jobs overseas, just pay workers. Okay, so the same thing in Bernie. They want to make sure that we can't outsource jobs overseas without a certain pay, without, a certain compensation, this kind of thing, just kind of meddling, restricting, more red tape on these people trying to work, trying to make money, trying to run companies and, raise their bottom line by lowering their costs. Biden's economic agenda copies disability rights agenda. Ensure that every family caregiver is able to receive compensation for their labor through self-directed services if that is the preference of the individual with a disability. Then the same thing with Bernie, and Biden's social security agenda is copied from Bernie's agenda. Biden's social security agenda is copied too. We have that. Here it says, Biden keeps plagiarizing his agenda, basically just copying and ripping off everyone. And I don't know, it's the kind of thing where it's like, I don't know, you might want to try not to blame Biden because it's like, he has a lot of handlers. He's not really even steering this ship. He's just the figurehead. He's just a puppet in the front. But at the same time, it still falls on him. It's still his name, his administration. Like things have to go through him at some point. Otherwise, he's just giving his officials and his underlings too much power. So regardless, it's his fault for letting all his underlings copy this agenda from everyone else. It's like they had a lot of homework and didn't want to do it, so they went on the internet and just copied stuff from Google or something, like writing your report based on the Wikipedia article and just like changing a few words. But a lot of this didn't even change words, which is really weird. So there's more details on the GOP website, and I think that's enough for this story, because next I want to get to is I want to talk about how Biden had plagiarized before. This is the older story. This is something that's come up in his campaign and his strategy. And I think it's just really telling, because what we also went over in a different video was how Biden kind of lied about his education and said he was top of his class and had a scholarship and all that stuff. And I know plagiarism isn't exactly the same as lying, but I think it's in the same boat in some ways. And this thing is just as bad. I mean, it's like saying you wrote something when you didn't. That's a lie. And that's what's going on here in another old clip from Biden.
Evaluate the condition of our society, but this standard is not a measure of how we can evaluate the condition of our society. It cannot measure the health of our children, the quality of our education, the joy of their play.
Yet the gross national product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play.
Yeah, he even kind of said that the same way. This is Biden copying Kennedy. Biden copied him in 1987. So this has been going on for 30 years, this kind of plagiarism. Biden's been in politics for so long, man. It's like crazy that he's been in politics since before most of us were born. It's insane. And the fact that he's been copying stuff here and there, like cribbing people's stuff and just saying it the same way, it's so bad. It's so cheap. And it just goes to show how far he'll go to try and hype himself up. He's got nothing going for him. He can't make his own speeches. Like, he's got no flavor to him. He's not special. Like, he doesn't have a good speaking style. He doesn't enthusiastically help people or get people energized. Like, Biden is the weakest candidate. The only thing I'll say about him is, and this is just something I hate to admit, but I remember there was this meme called Biden Bro that came out a few years back. I think it was like 2015, like before the election and before, it was when Biden and Obama were still in office. And there are a few funny memes of like Biden and Obama in the White House, and people would take pictures of them and write these funny kinds of captions. But the thing about that was, like, I had fun with it. I actually made a few posts of that myself. But most of it was actually kind of goofing on Biden. Like, it was funny because he's just like a nice guy, but he's also like a goofy goober guy who doesn't seem serious or like he knows what's going on. So a lot of those Biden Bro memes, I actually remember them now. It was because it was funny because he was just so aloof. Like Obama, for example, I can't remember specific ones, but the one, like, for example, it would be like Obama would be in his office working on something, and all of a sudden Biden would pop in and be like, hey, you want to go watch a movie or something? And Obama's like, well, I got work to do. Like, it was like a little cartoon kind of setup, and Biden was always the goofy one. And now that you see him coming up as a candidate, it's just funny to take that guy seriously and to see how he lies about his past and plagiarizes people. It's just like the worst look.
Let us pledge that our generation of Americans will pay any price, bear any burden, accept any challenge and meet any hardship to secure the blessings of prosperity and the promise of opportunity for our children.
We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
So there is Biden copying John F. Kennedy, another Kennedy copy of definitely not the worst people to copy. Kennedys were highly successful Democrats back in their day. JFK, of course, was a president who didn't get to serve out his full term, unfortunately. And they also come from a more classic era of politics that weren't as polarized as they are now. Sure, things were competitive and very, very cutthroat. It wasn't easy, but things weren't just so far gone. Like, we weren't communists. We hated Russia and all this stuff like we should. Like, we hated far leftism. Like, we wanted more of a balance, more of a centrist life, more of a conservative kind of Christian upbringing like our country was founded on. So to go back to these speeches like almost makes sense, but Biden copying them is really bad, and he's trying to like almost sound like a Kennedy. It's like he's trying to pretend to be a politician, which is just really lame because he's doing this in the 80s or whenever since then, like many years ago. And then now with this news story, we see that this is a trend that's been happening before. Like, Biden has been plagiarizing a lot throughout his career, and now we see that in his new policies, copying off of Bernie, copying off of this. He's just basically like that bro in the classroom, like, hey, can I read your homework? Can I copy your answers on the homework? And then he puts it off as his own, and he'll happily take credit for it too. Like, that's the worst part, is Biden doesn't ever kind of admit this or say, yes, I borrowed a few lines, say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I repeated that. But no, he just pretends it's his own, and he's just like a big kind of schlub. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts on everything below. Also hit that like button to get this thing shared. And until next time, have a great day. Hey guys, I wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about our new second channel. NoBS News has been really ramping up recently. We've got over 10,000 subscribers now, and it's growing each and every day. This is a new extra channel where I can give you guys more content, which includes extra videos, sometimes streams, sometimes other fun things too, clip shows, whatever you like. NoBS News is going to have it there for you. So make sure you check it out by either searching NoBS News on YouTube or clicking the link below this video. Thanks for your time. Have a good one.